confidence for me is like a muscle. It's something that you work on every single day because not every single day is going to be butterflies and rainbows. It's going to be a hot mess. It's going to be days where we feel like we don't want to show up in the world. For me, I think anybody can build confidence when they see their potential, when they believe in themselves.
Can we do it?
Hello, and welcome to the Influential Women Podcast, where we empower, connect, and inspire women who are leading, creating, and redefining what is possible. I'm your host, Jody O'Brien, and today we are joined by a woman whose work is transforming what confidence looks like in leadership and in everyday life. Sheena Yap Chan is a Wall Street Journal best-selling author, a TEDx speaker, a keynote speaker, and the founder of the Confidence Through Visibility movement. She is on a mission to help women bridge the confidence gap and lead with purpose by being seen, by being heard, and fully visible in the rooms where decisions are made. Her podcast, The Tao of Self-Confidence, has reached more than 1.3 million downloads and has featured over 800 women leaders and cultural icons reclaiming their voice. Sheena is also the author of Bridging the Confidence Gap, a powerful call to action for organizations and leaders to rethink how women grow, advance, and step into their influence. Her work has been featured on NBC News, Fox, Mind Valley, and the Manila Times, and she has spoken for global organizations including NASA and Live Nation. Here at Influential Women, you guys know our mission is to amplify the voices and the stories of women who are shaping the world. And Sheena's work, it aligns beautifully with that vision. Today, we are diving into confidence, visibility, and the courage it takes to stop shrinking and start leading like you belong in every single room that you enter. Sheena, welcome. We are so excited to have you with us today.
Hey, Jody, super excited to be here and such an honor to be a guest on the show and just excited to chat about confidence and visibility, especially for women.
Oh gosh, we're so excited. Well, one of the reasons we are so excited to have you on is because your message around visibility speaks directly to what we care about at Influential Women. We're here to amplify women's voices, recognize them for their contributions, and create real thought leadership opportunities. So I would love to start by having you tell us a little bit about your work. You have written 2 powerful books. You've interviewed over 800 women. And let me say, as a professional interviewer, that's impressive. And you've just become such a strong voice for visibility. For anyone meeting you for the first time, how do you describe the heart of what you do?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think the heart of it is really about the importance of visibility, especially for women. I grew up in Toronto, where it was a very multicultural city, but it wasn't represented in the media. So I never saw anybody in the media that looked like me. I always felt ashamed of who I was. I wanted to look a certain way, look different, because I didn't look like the standard of beauty, especially in being in North America at the time. And so for me, doing this work, being the representation, realizing that it's all about the importance of visibility and how it can shape the world, how we can have more women leaders, more women putting their selves out to realize that they have so much more to give when they just take even that first step.
Oh, that's beautiful. Well, your new book, Bridging the Confidence Gap, is such a needed roadmap for us. And it offers more than inspiration. It gives us real practical tools for everyday leadership. So, I guess my first question for you today is what inspired you to write it? And what gap do you feel was still not being addressed for women in leadership?
Yeah, I mean, the reason why I wrote this book was actually there was a report from the World Economic Forum that mentioned total gender parity would be achieved at the earliest in the year 2154. But that's when I wrote the book. So as of today, it's delayed 4 more years. So it's now 2158. Yes. And at the rate we're going, I feel like it'll get delayed. But I know as women, we are so capable, more than capable. But how we perceive ourselves stops us from moving forward. So there's a disconnect with how capable we are versus how capable we feel. And when we can bridge those two gaps together, that's how we can take action, do the things that we're meant to do. And there's so many women out there who overthink, who get scared, and I totally get it because I was there. I resisted a lot. I overthink everything. I want everything perfect to a T. And also how women are viewed in society in general, right? We're seen as the homemakers, the stay-at-home wives, and there's nothing wrong with that if that's what you want to do. Totally nothing wrong. But of course, there's so many things out there that we could do as well, right? There's a gap in every industry that we're in. When you look at the numbers of women leaders, there's a huge ratio. Even when you look at the list of like billionaires, right? I'm glad there's a lot of women that have become billionaires, but it's still a very small fraction compared to the men. So this is why a book like this is so needed. I don't think anyone wants to wait till 2158 for gender parity to be achieved.
Oh my goodness, my daughter. I just grieve for her in that respect. And no, of course we don't want to wait that long. And I think as moms too, I want to know what can I do to make sure that that's changed for her. And I love when you talk about, you know, the longing in that room because that's what I can do now. What I can do now is make sure that I walk into a room and I own it or I take an opportunity and I own it. So I love that. Well, a lot of people, believe that confidence is something that we're born with, and that means either you have it or you don't. And we know that that's not true. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think when we're young, we're very curious. So when we have that curiosity, we're more willing to find out, right? Like we start walking, we look at our body parts, we start talking, we start looking for things. And even if we fall down, we get back up because of that curiosity, right? But as we grow up, that curiosity goes away because of all these outside factors, your environment, people telling you no, people telling you different things. And so your confidence goes down. But you were able to build confidence once, you can do it again. So confidence for me is like a muscle. It's something that you work on every single day because not every single day is going to be butterflies and rainbows. It's going to be a hot mess. It's going to be days where we feel like we don't want to show up in the world. And yeah, for me, I think anybody can build confidence when they see their potential, when they believe in themselves.
So, what does that look like day to day for you?
For me, it's learning to take action, and it doesn't necessarily mean it has to be perfect action. Imperfect action still leads to different things. And I think that is one of the barriers most women deal with because I mean, I grew up in a culture where everything had to be perfect. I had to show up as a perfect daughter, things like that. And so it stops us from moving forward because if we make a mistake, we think, "Oh, we're a failure, we didn't do well." Meanwhile, if you look at some of the most successful people in the world, they made a lot of mistakes. They took a lot of imperfect action to get to where they are today. So it's like learning to just take action. And, if it's the right action, great. If it's the wrong action, that's fine. We can always learn from it. Also, working on your mindset is really important. So I love to watch interviews of different YouTube videos where people talk about their journey, their stories, how they were able to get there, because a lot of us hear the glory and we never hear the story behind it, how long it took them to get to the top. A lot of people think, oh, they had it so easy, when really, no, actually, they had it far from it, right? You don't know what happened behind the scenes. And I love hearing that, like these stories, because it just reaffirms that, okay, I'm in the right place. There's days where I'll struggle a little bit, but everybody else struggles, and it's that struggle that helps us build our character, our strength, our tenacity, our persistence to keep moving forward.
That's why I love this podcast because I feel like it opens a door for us to talk about the struggle and our mistakes and our past a little bit that shows us like that roadmap to our future. My background is in storytelling and on video broadcast, and we always told a minute 30. That's how long our stories were for the traditional media. And that's why I love this podcast because we can delve deep into like, why are you the way you are? What is your story? And see, like you said, how that it shows somebody coming up out of the trenches almost, or their own personal trench. Maybe it's not that dramatic. Maybe it's not that traumatic, but in the end, they've succeeded and what it took them to get there. So I love that. Your book talks about promoting yourself, which so many women resist. Why do you think that is?
I mean, it's just how we're brought up too, right? We've been told that self-promotion isn't ladylike. It's too much, it's too forward. We need to be more ladylike. We need to act like a lady, but what does that even mean, right? Each and every one of us have very different personalities and we've been told to never share your achievements, don't be so braggy, don't be so showy, but especially if you're an entrepreneur or even if you're a woman in a career where you want to move up into the world, it's okay to promote yourself. It's okay to showcase your talents because you did that work. And if you're not going to put it out there, you're also doing a disservice to other women who need to see it, right? For me, I've learned to just be okay with self-promotion. Doesn't mean I like it. I'm okay with it because I understand there's other women out there who feel just as scared. And when I show up, they realize, okay, if she can do it, so can I. And it helps them get out of their comfort zone to promote their products or services, to promote their skills and talents, right? If you keep it hidden, no one will know, right? You can't make an impact if you keep things hidden. So this is why for me, self promotion is a leadership tool. It's empowering. You look at like the Barbie movie, right? In the summer of 2023, like everybody, you can go anywhere without seeing the color pink. You can go anywhere without seeing all the collaborations for Barbie. There was a Barbie theme Airbnb, there was a Barbie theme Xbox, luggage, the whole works. And because of that, the Barbie movie was the first $1 billion movie that was solely directed by a woman. And that is a huge deal, right? Because for so long, Hollywood has always said that women aren't bankable. Meanwhile, here's a movie about a doll that made $1 billion, right? So this is why self-promotion is important.
One of my favorite movies, and you're the second or third person that I've interviewed just this month who has said the same thing, that we shouldn't feel embarrassed by self promotion and that it's not performative, it's business. And I love that. It really has given me, women like you have given me the permission needed to post a picture on LinkedIn. I mean, truthfully. Something that I would have never thought possible, that I would have never done in the past. You know what? I'm going to do it. So I love these conversations. So, how do you encourage women to advocate for ourselves without feeling like we're bragging? Do you have any tips or tricks?
I mean, I always like to lead by example. Even if it's scary at times, I put myself out there because people see the results of the action, right? Once they see that you're leading by example, like, okay, she walks the talk. If she can do it, I can do it, right? Or even when people buy the book, when they read it, it helps them realize, oh, I can actually make this happen. I can actually go out there, do something, and really get the results that I wanted. It might not be perfect, but that's totally okay. So I remember talking to a lady who read both my books, and she mentioned that after reading the book, she finally realized her own capabilities and she decided to apply for a job that she's always wanted. She hesitated for the longest time because she thought, oh, I'm not qualified. There's someone better out there. And we all go through that, right? And once she applied for it, she actually went to like 2 or 3 rounds of interviews, but she got the job. And she was like, because of your book, I was able to get my dream job. And hearing things like that really helped me out. It's the reason why I wrote the book, because there's so many different examples when it comes to, women's failures, how they were still able to pick themselves back up even through the craziest times of their lives. And when they keep reading the book, it also helps them have a shift, right? The shift that they never had before, like this shift, like, I can make this happen. This is possible for me. And so I think reading the book, shameless plug, but reading the book could help that out.
Well, Sheena, I guess my question for you is, what is it that inspired you to speak out in this way? Because even learning the lessons that you have along the way, you never had to step out. You could have just, I tell people this all the time, you could have just been on the beach, in Jamaica and not taken the time to write a book to help other people. So, what was it in your past, your experience, that pushed you into this vein?
Yeah, that's a great question, and you're right. I could hide from the world and just live a normal life, right? But for me, again, growing up in Toronto, not having the representation that I wanted, that was the start of it. I wanted, especially Asian women, to be seen as leaders instead of being seen by their negative stereotypes, instead of being seen as quiet, submissive, and obedient. I want them to see we're courageous, we're confident, we're badass leaders, we're badass bosses. Because, like, there's a lot of Asian women out there who have 7, 8 figure businesses, and we have no idea who they are, right? Some of them have even never said that they're the CEO of their companies. And that's due to our cultural upbringing, right? Don't brag, stay in the background, never make any noise, do as you're told. And that also, I guess, had a domino effect on just worldwide issues for women, right? You look at like Afghanistan, where women's basic human rights have been taken away from them, which is so terrible in 2025, right? They're not allowed to show their faces, not allowed to talk to anybody. They're not allowed to go to school, not allowed to have a job. They're not even allowed to sing in their own homes. Like, it's wild. On X, there's a lot of women from Afghanistan posting videos of themselves singing at their homes as a way to protest. And of course, they have to hide their faces because there's dire consequences, right? I remember reading a story where an Afghani woman talks about working a job. And so, like I mentioned, they're not allowed to work a job, right? So, in order for her to go to her job, she has to take a private car every single day because if she had to take public transportation just to go to her job, we wouldn't know what would happen, right? So when I hear things like that, it really bugs me because, if one country can do it, any country can do it, right? And this is why I continue to do it because if someone like her has the courage to go to her job and that could be a life or death situation, than us speaking up. We live in a country where freedom of speech is allowed, right? Yes, there may be consequences to it, but we have that option to speak our truth, to speak our mind, to be able to help others see their potential, be inspired to take action, to do amazing things.
Well, we're sure glad, Sheena, that you spoke up. You have no idea. One of the things that you are known for is the visible framework, which aligns so closely with our mission here at Influential Women, just to highlight women's voices and celebrate their contributions. But for someone hearing it for the first time, how do you explain the visible framework in a simple and a practical way?
Yeah, so for me, the visible framework is a step-by-step guide that helps you confidently show up, speak up, and stand out so your work and your worth are finally seen. And if you see the word visible, each letter represents something, right? It's based on the 7 pillars. And so I'll share just what each letter stands for. V is voice, I is identity, S is spotlight, I is inner work, B is for belief, L is for leverage, and E is for elevation. And, it consists of inner and outer work because that's so important. And every time I share this framework at different talks, different workshops, people love it because it's like, oh, this makes so much sense, right? They love that it combines inner and outer work. I think the one that really I like talking about is the spotlight portion, right? Because as women, we're not taught to be the spotlight. We're not taught to share. We're not taught to promote ourselves. And I keep telling people, if you, especially in the workplace, if you don't own your work, someone else might. And I don't want that to happen to you. I don't want your effort wasted and taking credit by somebody else. And so it is important to share your achievements, what you've been able to accomplish, because someone else might take it and then they end up moving up to the next level. Meanwhile, you're still in the same position because you're too afraid to share your achievements or spotlight yourself.
When you look at those 7 pillars, is there one that creates the biggest shift for women once they start practicing it?
Yeah, belief. Everything starts with that belief. If you don't believe in yourself, you're not going to go out there and even take the first step. And, belief is just knowing you can do it. And you don't have to know how. You just know you will do it. You'll figure it out. As women, we can figure it out, especially if you're a mom, right? You're putting out fires left, right, and center, right? You're pivoting, you're doing things on the spot. Imagine if you took those same skills in your career or your business, what you can accomplish. And so for me, belief is really the first thing that women have to build on because without that belief, you're not going to go out there and take action.
So well said and so true. Is there a moment from your own life that you could talk about when one part of this framework came alive for you? Like a moment that made you say, okay, this is why I'm teaching this?
I think for me, just being able to just see self promotion as not negative and something that's empowering, something that's a leadership quality that helped me create that visible framework because I know how hard it is for women to put themselves out there. I know the overthinking and over explaining ourselves why we should and shouldn't do it. I mean, I remember sharing my first blog post. This was like 13 years ago. I shared it on Facebook, and instead of setting the audience to public, I set it to myself because I was so scared. So I totally understand that. And this is why I created this framework to help them realize, oh, okay, I could do this. I could do this in a way that feels like myself, that feels good, and that can still make an impact.
We talked a little bit about some of the biggest myths that are out there that hold women back from stepping into visibility. But what is one that you think trumps everything else?
Again, just how women are viewed, right? We're always told to be demure, be ladylike, don't be so brass, don't put yourself out there, but that really hurts us because then we feel like, oh, if we put ourselves out there, we're just too much. People are going to think we're too extra. Like all these labels, right, put on us. And yes, they're just words, but those words can either make or break a person. And so it's really important to get rid of those labels, first of all, and realize don't be afraid to put yourself out there. Like, just have the courage to step up, be seen, because you have certain skills and talents and gifts that nobody else has that can really help somebody else out there. You could be the solution to their problems.
What's funny about what you just said was last night I was at an event and there was a chair in my way. And I was just like, oh, here, let's just move the chair out of the way. And there were some people laughing about it just because I was like, let's move the furniture. Like, we're trying to have a conversation here, right? I started moving the furniture. And they started laughing, and I said, I know, I'm a lot, I'm a lot." And they're like, "Oh, no, no, we weren't saying that." And I'm like, "No, I own it. I'm a lot. I'm gonna be dramatic here, and I'm gonna move this chair." And I owned it, and I feel like a lot of the times we aren't allowed to own those pieces of our personality, and I think at my age, finally kind of, like, getting over the hump, I feel like, "Okay, I can own this." I will own who I am. And so I love that confidence. Well, I have to ask you because my favorite color to wear anywhere is red. Always have the red lipstick ready, but it means something clearly to you. And it's something special. So when did red become your power color? And what does it bring out in you when you wear it?
Yeah, for me, confidence represents courage and confidence, especially like when there's times where I'm super nervous or I have so much anxiety, it kind of helps me calm me down and realize like you'll be fine, right? Everything's going to be okay. And also in Chinese culture, red signifies a happy color. It's color of luck and abundance. And so I also wanted to represent a color that represents our culture in a positive way. Also my grandma would never go out of the house without red lipstick. Like when the red lipstick is on, she means business, whether it's having a business meeting or going to the supermarket negotiating with the vendors. Once the red lipstick is out, everybody knows. It's like, watch out, world. She's coming to conquer it. So this is why red is my color.
Okay, we've got to talk about your grandma because I had one too who was just powerful. And, that generation is so interesting. So tell me about your grandma. How has she influenced you?
My grandma had lived such a hard life. She went through so many different situations, and yet she could still wake up, smile, and realize there's another day out there that's great. Unfortunately, she passed away on Christmas Day, so it was such a big, I guess, stab in the heart, just really like terrible. And, grieving is not fun, right? But, we remember all the good things about her. She was just beautiful inside and out, and we just miss her so much.
Ugh, I'm so sorry to hear about that. I know grief is especially hard around the holidays for people. And when you lose your grandma on Christmas Day, of all days, I'm so sorry to hear that. And we'll be thinking about you this Christmas. What was your grandma's story, if you don't mind me asking?
She grew up in a big family. She was like the eldest daughter of 12 12 children. The highest level of education she had was grade 6. She had to stay at home and take care of everybody else. She started a business, she had a cinema, did different things. So even with a sixth grade education, she was still able to make a life for herself, make an income. And it just shows that, like, your past doesn't equate your future. Just because you only finish a certain grade doesn't mean you're stupid, doesn't mean your worth is slow, right? Everyone is at different paths, and you can always go back to school, right? There's so many people who are like 70 or 80 and are, going to university and graduating, which is really awesome.
Oh my goodness. Well, I'm so glad that your grandma had such an influence on you because literally now you're influencing thousands of women. And I know she had a big part in that. I'm sure she's very proud of you.
I
So
hope so.
I hope you know that. Yeah, I'm sure she is. Well, in your experience, what opportunities do women, unintentionally close the door on when they avoid visibility?
I mean, I think, when an offer's presented to them, sometimes they don't go for it because they're afraid they're not qualified or they're not good enough or there's someone better out there or they're not prepared or they need to be perfect to a T. And sometimes you just need to go for it, right? Whether you get it or not, at least you went for it. A lot of people don't realize, like, especially if you're reaching out to people, let's say you want to speak, right? You're reaching out to a lot of people. It's a numbers game sometimes too, right? Like, if you were to get, let's say, 10 speaking gigs in a month, you'd probably have to apply to 100 or 200 speaking engagements just to get to 10. And, that's what most people do. And, some people, especially women, we're not taught to embrace rejection, right? It's like the moment we get rejected, we're like, oh, we're no good. We suck. I'm not doing this again. When really, we have to keep going. We got rejected. Okay, we got an answer. We're going to move on to the next and move on to the next. Growing up, we're not taught to embrace rejection. Boys are taught to embrace rejection, right? We're not. We're not taught to love ourselves, to treat ourselves with kindness, to take care of ourselves. And I wish sometimes in schools we were taught to do that. Especially with failure, we're not taught to embrace it. We're taught to see it as something negative. I know because I failed kindergarten in the Philippines for coloring outside the lines of a photo. And that went on until my adult life, thinking that I was a failure at everything. So how we're brought up is a big one, right? When it comes to girls' confidence, they say girls start having confidence issues as young as 6 years old. And so it really needs to start with our younger generation, developing their confidence skills so that when they enter the real world, they have the tools and resources to equip themselves to move past the barriers that we still face today.
So I want to ask you about a concept called ready, aim, fire. Can you share that strategy and how women can use it in
Yes.
their own lives?
Yeah. So first off, it's ready, fire, aim. So ready. It's all good. Um, and I like saying ready, fire, aim because if we do ready, aim, fire, you know, the aim part, we just keep aiming to the point where we don't end up taking action. And so
Ah,
we need to switch
so
it. So
good.
ready, fire, aim, start before you're ready, take action and course correct as you go.
Oh,
And the
Sheena,
more we
that's
keep
so
doing
good.
that,
Thanks for fixing me. Thanks for
yeah, no
fixing me.
worries. The more we keep doing it, that's how we get the results.
Wow. And so, why do you think that strategy is so powerful in a woman's life?
Because I think it just helps women realize, like, okay, it's not going to be perfect. The first time I do something will probably suck. I'm going to make mistakes, but I can always correct my mistakes. I can learn from them. I can figure out what worked, what didn't work, and I will get the end result. And so this is why I love the ready, fire, aim approach.
That's wonderful. So many of us freeze at the fear of rejection, but what does failing forward mean to you? And how can women learn to see no's as part of the process rather than the end of the road?
Yeah, I mean, I see, like, especially when it comes to rejection, I just see it as a result, right? A result that didn't work. I can learn from that result to see how I can become better. I can move on, right? I can move on with my life. I'd rather get a no than get no answer, right? Than get ghosted. Because at least I know they went through my stuff, they looked at it and said, okay, this is not, And no doesn't mean no forever. It can be no at that moment. It could be a blessing in disguise. And so we have to treat rejection as part of our process. We all go through it, myself included. In fact, like today I probably got like 5 rejections today, and I'm fine, right? I'm still alive. I'm still moving forward. Out of the 5, I got 1 speaking engagement that I got accepted for. So, it's not the end of the world. We all are going to go through it, but we learn to push through, to persevere, to be persistent and keep moving forward.
Well, everyone who said no to you today is just going to be like, sad because they have no idea what they're missing out on.
Yeah, thank you. It's just like if you look at a lot of the women who succeeded in life, they went through so many different failures to get to where they are today. So without those failures, they wouldn't be here. They wouldn't win Olympic medals, sold millions of books, everything. So
Well, representation, it's such a powerful part of your work. So, can you share a moment when you saw someone who looked like you succeed in that world and how it shifted what you believed
yeah,
was possible for you?
Yeah, especially in the 90s, there was rarely any Asian women represented. So, like, there was very few. Like, Connie Chung is very iconic. And, like, the first TV show that I saw that was led by an Asian woman was All American Girl with Margaret Cho. I think the movie The Joyla Club was the first time I saw an Asian women cast lead, right? And for me, that was a big deal, especially being in North America. Like you don't see that in the 90s, and so that made me realize we could be the main characters in movies. And at one point, the Hollywood directors didn't even want to cast Asian characters for that movie. They wanted to have Caucasian women, and the author fought to have Asian women casted because our culture isn't the same. And so we can talk about our culture more, right? And really feel and understand it more versus, if Caucasian women were to play it, they wouldn't understand what we went through because everyone's different. We may go through similar things, but each culture has their own thing. Like I would never want to be in like Latino, like say I can relate to Latina culture or, or like Middle Eastern culture because it's not my culture. I can understand Asian women because it's the culture I grew up in. Now, I have spoken to many women from different cultures, and I realize that we do go through similar things. But for this particular movie, it was very essential to have Asian characters because the stories were so specific to Asian culture that you couldn't replace it.
It's incredible that it took that long. It's incredible. Sheena, I can't thank you enough for this conversation today. Your work, your message reminds us that confidence is not something that we just wait for. It's something that we build and that we have to go after. And visibility is not about ego, it's about impact. For everyone listening, of course, you can explore Sheena's work, keynote programs, and resources at sheenayapchan.com. You can also download her free Confident Workplace Toolkit and you can pre order her newest book, Bridging the Confidence Gap, which is available now. If you enjoyed this episode, of course, subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a woman who inspires you because every single story that we share strengthens the visibility of women everywhere. And that is exactly what this community is all about. Until next time, I'm Jody O'Brien, and this was the Influential Women Podcast. Keep showing up, keep growing, and keep leading with confidence.
Can we do it?